key to time management is understanding there's no one book, there's no one system. It's kind of a way of living to understand that your time is valuable. I'll pay you twice the value of the book. So they went and spent the $40 on the book. Well, we got to train them. And it turns planning better into something as practical as just 5 minutes to set the day up in advance. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. I'm going to change James Clear's quote, and I'm going to take responsibility for it. Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to change it. I'm going to say, I don't rise to the level of my goals. I fall to the level of my systems. Well, hello, everybody. This is Dominic Rubino. Welcome to the Cabinet Maker Profit System podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about a book many of you have already read on time management. Time management is such a challenge for all of us. Look, not just for running a business, but especially in our trade, because we're being pulled in a million directions. We've got estimates to get out. We've got engineering to check over. We've got accounts receivable. We've got accounts payable. We've got team members. We've got handoff between engineering and the CNC. All of those things combined together to pull at our time. And so I thought today we'd take a deep dive into some time management strategies that work for other cabinet shops, other millwork shops, other closet companies that you can take advantage of. Now, the reason I'm even talking about this is because we just covered this in the last session of the Foreman training that we run. And we also covered it in the last Gold Group Mastermind that we run here. That's another story that I'll get to some other point if we ever get a chance to talk. Anyways, today's topic is, what if your foreman had atomic habits? What if James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, actually trained your foreman? So let's get into that. And by the way, if you have any questions, just text me. I'll leave my number here somewhere throughout the show. But just send me a text and we'll find a way to catch up. Now, I'll start by asking, have you had a chance to read or listen to Atomic Habits? It's a great book. Now, how I like to do this as a training to get motivation and buy-in from my team, especially on a book like this, is I want to incent my people to take part in their own training. So if you've read Atomic Habits, that's great. But how do you get somebody else to read it? That's one of the challenges, because the key to time management is understanding there's no one book, there's no one system. It's kind of a way of living to understand that your time is valuable. And if you don't control your time, other people will. That goes the same for you and I as people, what are we called? Presidents, owners, CEOs, whatever you want the title to be, but also for our leaders, our foremen, our supervisors, our install leads, the head engineer, whatever they're called, right? The person running your administration department. If they allow their time to get pulled, it'll get pulled. If they don't control it, it'll never be controlled. So what I like to do to train my people on something is I want them to take part in it. So I'm going to give you a tip. It's a very simple trick, not trick, tip. We just actually use this in my company here. I said to somebody, hey, this is a great book you should read. Tell you what I'll do. You go ahead and buy that book and read it. And after you've read it, and you and I sit down and we have a little debrief, give me, essentially a book report, I'll pay you twice the value of the book. So they went and spent the $40 on the book. We had a discussion about what they learned from the book, and they got $80. So for me, that's cheap training, but it also gets buy-in from them. Now, that's a simple system, right? A simple system for you as a leader to pass time management on to your people. Now, imagine you did that in the beginning when you were promoting that person who's now your foreman, who, let's be honest, you probably never trained them anyways. And most shops don't train their foreman. What we do is we take somebody on the floor who's doing a great job. Maybe it's a lady who's in the finishing department, a woman in the finishing department. We say, hey, you're great. Let's make you the head of the finishing department. Maybe it's a great installer who's just shown great initiative and motivation and good with the tools. And you say, hey, I want you to be the head installer. But we never train them. We just give them the promotion, maybe a little bit of a raise, and that's it. Well, we got to train them. All right. So imagine if you're promoting a new person and you say, hey, Brenda, you're doing a great job in painting and in prep. I'd like to talk to you about maybe moving up in the company. But before we do that, I want to give you this book on time management and see if you have any interest in reading it and talking more about your career here. And Brenda says, yeah, I'd love to. You say, well, here's what we're going to do. First step, why don't you go read a book on time management? And you choose what you want it to be. It can be on lean manufacturing. It can be on cost analysis. It can be anything you like, right? But assign them that book and say, you go ahead and buy it. It's going to cost you $40. Buy it on Amazon, buy it used. I don't care. But once you finish it and talk to me about it, I'll pay you twice the money. Now you've got that buy-in from that person. Or Brenda never reads it, and Brenda disqualifies herself from the race, right? So you can use that in many places and in many ways. So just want to give you that idea. I learned that from somebody else many years ago, and I've been using it. And it works really well. And by the way, I just paid that out inside my company for somebody to be trained on marketing. It worked really well. So let me tell you why I decided to focus on a book that I went through last year. And the book's old, and I just got to it last year. But Atomic Habits by James Clear, it makes time management really simple and repeatable. It gives you clear breaks. How do we say this? How to break your goals into tiny daily actions instead of trying to like go after everything at once, this big crazy ball of yarn that's hard to untie. Just break everything into tiny daily actions. Exactly what you need as the leader of the company, yourself as the owner, but also Foreman Fred. Let's call him Fred. Foreman Fred, right? And it turns planning better into something as practical as just 5 minutes to set the day up in advance. Imagine if your foreman, all your foreman did was take 5 minutes to themselves to plan the day before they jumped into it headlong. You know, in the last foreman training, we were lucky enough to have somebody on there who is a volunteer, a longtime volunteer on a search and rescue squad in the city he lives in. And so because he was on the call, I asked him, his name's Nico. I said, Nico, when you show up to a situation where you search and rescue and you have arrived at something out in the forest, do you guys just run in blindly or do you stop and assess the situation? He's like, no, we stop and assess the situation, put together a plan. We look at the assumptions we've made, how the assumptions change. In the meantime, I imagine somebody's screaming because they fell off a cliff and they broke their ankle and they need help. But there's Nico and the rest of the crew putting a plan together before they rush in to help this person. Right? They're always putting a plan in place before they rush in. It's exactly like our foreman or you and I as leaders. We've got to have a plan. You got to have a plan, and then you put the plan in place. Hey, folks, I realize I haven't given you my cell phone number yet. If you do want to text me, just text me and say Foreman Training at 206-208-7581. The second thing I really liked about the book is it builds systems, not wish lists, right? We don't need any more wishing. We need doing. So if you read the book or listen to the audio, it's going to really reinforce what you already know. Goals are just talk, unless you've got a system, a simple system. Today, I'm going to show you more about that. Your foreman learns, good habits on the floor, like a clean work area, daily huddle, prep checklists, talking to the right people about the right things. It really saves you hours later. Imagine the last rework that you had. Think about the last rework you had in your shop. Let's just say you're a millwork shop and you were on the pre-build and store track where you put some stuff aside that you pre-built in order to get ahead of the schedule. And somebody, without knowing it, moved the hand dolly past the wrapped millwork that you had and they scratched it. You've got internal rework that never needed to happen. But that could have been avoided if there had been good conversation and communication inside the company, right? Actually, there's a quote from James Clear. It's probably one of the most famous ones from the book. It says, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And actually, let me change that because I want to be an above the line leader. I want to take responsibility. I'm going to change James Clear's quote and I'm going to take responsibility for it. Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to change it. I'm going to say, I don't rise to the level of my goals. I fall to the level of my systems. Those of you who've been in the training understand the power of how I changed that sentence. Instead of saying you, I said I. You can do the same thing, and you can support and endorse that with your leaders, your foremen, your supervisors, whoever your team leads are, right? And it matters because you're tired of hearing the foreman say they'll be more organized. Saying it's different than doing it, right? And your foreman isn't saying it and not doing it because they don't want to do it. They just don't have the how. They don't know the tips and tricks, the kind of things we talk about here on this show. Or they haven't been through foreman training to know what to do, right? And be in the class with 20 other foremen all across North America talking about the same thing, realizing, hey, it's not just me here in Cincinnati. It's not just me up here in Vancouver. Everybody's got the same issue. And all those other foremen and leaders are dealing with it this way. Maybe I should try that, right? So when we talk about that quote, I don't rise to the level of my goals. I fall to the level of my systems. It nails it because success on the shop floor or in the field or in the office, it's not about new goals. It's about putting daily systems in place, simple habits that make simple systems and really automatic organization. Right. By the way, if you do want to be in foreman training, send me a text. We'll talk about it when the next one runs. The other thing I like about the book is it replaces motivation with structure, right? Instead of waiting to feel like you're ready, you're going to learn in the book. It's just the habit of get hinted by something, put a routine in place, and then have a reward. So you'll start to realize what the hints are, what the problems that come up are. For me, one of the things I watch for is if I'm going to do something that I think we've already done twice or I can see us doing twice, I put a system in place. And that has taken a lot of consistency and discipline on my part. I'm still not good at it, but I'm trying to be great. That's my goal. I'm not good at it, but I am still trying to be great. It helps me stay consistent. It's going to help your foreman stay consistent, helps you run a shop that doesn't depend on willpower. We want to have simple systems. We want to have structure. You can't rely on luck, right? And I don't have to be motivated every day. Neither does your foreman, and neither do you. But I just have to show up and stick to the schedule, stick to the plan, right? Stick to the recipe, right? You know, we always joke that our moms and our grandmothers didn't have recipes and still they had their favorite thing. You know, my grandmother had a certain kind of cookie she could make, or my aunt is really well known for a certain kind of cake. And you ask them, what's the recipe? And they're like, well, I don't know. I don't have a recipe. I just do it. But they do the same thing every time. They have a system and they stick to that system. And if one of the grandkids shows up and says, Nonna or Grandma, I want to do this or that, they're like, well, you could, but we're going to do it this way because it's been working for 65 generations, right? It's the same thing we see around us in life. I don't have to be motivated every day to make this perfect baking or have this perfect recipe. I just show up and I stick to the recipe. The same for us. Show up and stick to the schedule, right? And again, you're going to read that in the book if you pick it up. I guess at the end of the day, we don't need our foreman to try harder, because at some point trying harder stops working. What he or she needs is a rhythm, like the rhythms of business we talk about here. And those of you who already work with us understand, and you've heard us say, we put the rhythms of business in place, right? The rhythms like having a morning huddle or a setup checklist, or this is how we start a job site. This is how we clean a job site. This is how we start our station. This is how we change the chuck on the tool. All of those, there's just rhythms, right? And it makes good behavior a default, not luck, right? The other thing I like about the book is it shows you how to create compound gains over time, like how to make one win and use that win to create another win and another win. It really is a great book. I mean, if you haven't picked that up from me yet, I don't know how much more to hint. Well, I've got one more thing that I think is important from the book. Let me do this one first. There's something that the James Clear talks about in the book about getting 1% better every day. That's all you have to do. Just get 1% better every day. And you've heard me say that here in the show. Hey, I just went back and rewatched the episode here and realized I forgot to tell you my cell phone number, so you could text me if you're at all interested. So my cell phone number is 206-208-7581. In the Foreman training, we cover in 6 weeks all the major things you need to understand as a foreman and to get your foreman up to speed, right? It's Foreman 101. So we talk about how to lead people, how to manage your time, how to have more efficient floor processes, and then finally, how to delegate properly without always taking everything on your superhero shoulders. So again, if you're interested, there's a couple of steps you have to follow. First, you have to get on the wait list because we won't be having an information call until a couple of weeks from now. Then you have to come to the info call. Then you can make a decision about whether you and your foreman want to be in this at all. But first step is just get on the wait list. My cell phone number is 206-208-7581, and just say Foreman training, and then we know what list you want to be on. Thanks. You know, the reason business coaching works, if you let me jump over to that for a second, is only because we're consistently applying rhythms and systems to the business, but we're doing it on a regular, consistent basis. So if all you do in your business is change by 1% every week, let's just say, then by the end of the year, you would have 52 different changes. 52 different changes you've applied in your business. If you go look out your office window right now, and right across the street is our competitor Millwork, and they're not doing any changes, they're not trying to get any better every day, by the end of the year, you're 52 times better than them. And I understand for all you math whizzes, that math doesn't work, but I think you follow my analogy here, right? So small changes, things like prepping tools the night before, making a list the night before. Actually, in our last foreman training, the one we just had this week, a number of the foremen on the call were they're installers for Division 12 type stuff. And so they're always off in their vans and on job sites. And one of the guys held up that yellow legal pad, and he goes, I always make my list the night before. And guess what? He's one of the leading foremen on that crew, right? It adds up to a major time savings. It adds up to less stress and always having a plan, right? So getting 1% better every day is important, but how you do it and how you continue to apply that's just as important. So I think reading this book yourself, or having your foreman read it's going to be real powerful for you. The other thing I wanted to say, because I remember this quote, is James Clear, right? He says, habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. A little bit of fancy talk, but think about that. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. We know what compound interest is, right? You've probably had that conversation with your kids and they've rolled their eyes. Honey, if you just put $100 a month in the bank, I know you're only 18 years old, but by the time you're 36, you'll be a millionaire. I wish I'd known this when I was a kid, right? The language of money and the language of, the power of compound interest. But habits are actually the compound interest of self-improvement, right? If every night before bed, you walked around the block and your neighbor every night before bed ate a bowl of ice cream, who's going to be healthier at the end of the year? Just that one little habit change, that one little habit difference, right? So it matters, right? And this particular quote or way of looking at the world, and in your business brain, tiny time savers like that every day build into a huge production gain over the year, right? Just like compound interest returns on money. Okay, obviously this book's going to give you and your foreman a shared language anytime you can both read a book, so why not make it fun? But you're going to learn things in that book, like things I learned: habit stacking, systems over goals, identity-based habits, which is fancy talk, which is just like habits that matter to you and what you're doing, right? I'm a foreman, so I have a habit of having huddle. I'm a foreman, so I have a habit of training people a certain way. Now we can both talk about things using the same language. And by the way, that point I just made there is why the rule for foreman training is the owner and the foreman have to be there together. Foreman training is not just for the foreman. It's for the foreman and the owner to spend time together learning this new language. It's really important. And again, shoot me a text if you ever want to know more about it. But let's get back to the point here. I got all excited about the book and why I thought it was something that we should reference today. But imagine for a second if your foreman showed up every day with small, repeatable habits, right? Not just another pep talk. And the real fix isn't getting a better foreman, it's better systems to turn them into automatic ones, right? So you can't really build consistency with motivation. You build it with repetition. The simple systems always applied the same way. So imagine if James Clear ran your morning huddles. Your foreman would never talk about winging it again, right? And again, I want to remind you what he said. You don't rise to, I'm going to say it his way from the book, and then I'm going to say it my way, where I take full ownership over it. And those of you who've been in class or do coaching with us, you'll recognize this tiny shift in what I said. Those of you who haven't done that, you're going to hear the same thing and you'll wonder what the heck I'm talking about. Here's James Clear's quote: "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." The way I would say it, if I want to take ownership, is say, I don't rise to the level of my goals. I fall to the level of my systems, right? At the end of the day, I want this show to educate, inform, and inspire you. That's what I want. I want all of this to be where we need it to be, right? If you have a foreman and you want to train that foreman and get him up to speed, get a shared language with them, right? So that you're both talking the same language. Make sure you're spending time with that foreman so they can debrief with you and you can help them put simple systems in place, right? Create those 1% better every day type mentality in your company. Find a way to replace motivation with structure, simple systems, simple, repeatable systems. We've talked about this on the show before as well. If you think about your SOPs, we all talk about SOPs, right? A very simple SOP is this. When you've got one station and another station following it, so you've got station A and station B. Let's just say we've got cutting and then we've got edge banding, just as an example, right? The last step of cutting is the following statement or the following rule. Look at your work. If it's not perfect, fix it. We are proud craftsmen. And then the next step after that is pass this on to the next station, which in this case would be edge banding. I'm just using that as an example. Well, guess what the first step of the edge banding SOP is? Review the materials you've just received. If they are not high quality, send them back. We are proud craftsmen. What a simple system. So that's what we're talking about here. And that's what I picked up in the book. Replace motivation with structure. I don't need to motivate people to, we need better QC, we need better quality control. What about a simple system to take place of that? And there's lots of those simple systems. And look, I'm not smarter than anybody else. I just listen a lot. I've been listening for 25 years to other shops who've been doing these things and getting it wrong and getting it right. And we're kind of like bees that pollinate. We get a great idea from over here and we share it over there. We learn something from another industry like automotive or dental, and we bring it into the woodworking industry. So we're not insular here. We're not just woodworking. This is about the business of the cabinetry, the business of the woodwork, the business of the millwork, the business of the closet business. It's a very different thing, right? I want you to build those systems, not just wish lists, and make time management simple and repeatable. Now, did you notice that in today's episode, I didn't talk about making charts? I didn't talk about having this new habit where you've got to do this first thing in the morning and this last thing in the day. No, it's really more about a mindset. And just keep this in mind. And if you've got a pen handy, write this down. I don't rise to the level of my goals. I fall to the level of my systems. And then as you walk through the shop today or tomorrow, watch what's going on around you. Even though you've set a goal as a business owner for where you want to be, what your business is running at is the level of your systems. All right, look, I appreciate you checking in. I think this has been a very important topic. The timing is incredible because we just talked about this on 2 different training calls. We have rhythms in our coaching business as well. The Foreman training runs and it follows a format. Coaching runs and it follows a format. And part of coaching is a very special roundtable or mastermind group where only the top business owners in North America get together to talk about these things. And in both of those 2 meetings, we happen to be talking about time management. And in both of those meetings, we talked about the tools you use for this. As you guys know, all of this is just you and I waiting for a time when we're actually sitting together like regular humans, across a table, we're having a cup of coffee, maybe a glass of wine. I look forward to that more than you'll ever know. But until then, thank you for checking in, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.